We've shared lots of news lately about Brevard County's economic recovery and growth, and looking ahead, the conversation must include Eastern Florida State College. I'm Matt Reed in the Florida Today newsroom. My guest today is Eastern Florida State President Jim Richey, who has overseen the former community college's conversion to a four-year state college. With the changes come plans for major expansion of one of the college's four campuses. Coming up, Richey previews that expansion and explains how the college is preparing students and local businesses to compete in industries such as aviation and healthcare. But first, here's a look back at Richey's recent State of the College address by Florida Today education reporter Mackenzie Ryan.
Our students continue to face economic challenges in their personal lives, and an education in Eastern Florida that does not burden them with crushing debt is essential to their ability to graduate, start their careers, and earn higher incomes.
Eastern Florida State College President Jim Richey discussed the college's accomplishments and plans for the future.
We had a great audience today. It was an opportunity to talk to our community, our students, our faculty, our staff about all the accomplishments the college has had and the transformation that's taken place in the last couple years. And people are excited. We had a lot of applause lines in there. Folks really got excited about a number of things, including new programs that we've got on board, including the bachelor's degrees, but also our associate and certificate programs as well. So folks are excited. There's good opportunities here. It's affordable. They can stay close to home, and it's just great opportunities for our community.
My academic goals thus far is just to receive my AA for 2 years. I'm here to receive as well for business. I will be taking on the bachelor's program after my 2 years. And the reason I'm coming here is because it's so convenient for me, and it's also very affordable. There's nothing like going to a college that's very affordable and you enjoy being where you're at. That's why I chose Eastern Florida State College.
President Richey, thanks so much for joining us here today. For those of us who couldn't make it to your recent State of the College speech, fill us in. How are things going?
Things are going great, and thank you for inviting me. I always enjoy being on your show. It's a fantastic opportunity to come and talk to some of the folks in our community about what's happening at the college. So, yeah, we had the State of the College speech, which we do try to do every year or sometimes every other year, just to talk about kind of where we've been, where we're going, and some of the priorities of the college. And it was well attended. I was very pleased. A lot of enthusiasm, and had an opportunity to talk about kind of where the college was. And you know, I've been the president for about 2.5 years now. I was the interim president, and I've been the permanent president for the last 2 years. And in that time, if you think about it, we changed our level from a level 1 institution to a level 2 institution. And for those in the community to wonder what that means that we now have the ability to offer bachelor's degrees. So that was one major change in the college, and with that, we've created I think 9 bachelor degree tracks starting in August. Last year we created 2 bachelor degree tracks, one in general business and one in healthcare management. And now we've added 7 more in technology area, healthcare area, and more business degrees as well. So we've gone from not offering any to offering those, and they've been wildly successful with the students we've had enrolled so far.
Let me ask you a question
Sure.
about that. One of the comments or questions I hear, because you know you changed from Brevard Community College
Right.
to Eastern Florida State College,
Right.
in keeping with going to the some four-year programs.
Right.
One of the questions you hear all the time is, well, why are they doing that? Are they getting away from the mission of some of the vocational and job training and career preparation for people for the local economy? How do you decide what to offer bachelor's degrees in?
Well, how we decide what to offer the bachelor degrees in is we look at our community in terms of industry and business, and we work directly with them to determine what their workforce needs are. The baccalaureate degrees that we're authorized to do under law has to be workforce related. And so we have to work very closely with our community, and of course that's exactly what we want to do in all our degrees, not just our bachelor's degrees. But so work closely with them to find out what the needs were. We did needs assessments, and then with their consent, decided to offer the degrees that are going to help them directly.
Healthcare is the #1 employment sector in Brevard County now, I understand.
And it's a major component of what we're doing at Eastern Florida State College as well. There's all kinds of aspects of healthcare, from management to respiratory therapy to physical therapy to you go on and on and on. And we've actually created in the last 2 years, and I have to tell you, I'm really enthusiastic about this. I think our college community is enthusiastic about this. We've created 22 new academic programs that have the possibility of leading to great jobs in those areas, basically. And so, you know, we have a total of 100 programs to start with. We've basically added, you know, 22% more programs in the last few years. So that's an exciting time at the college.
How has the demand been for those?
Fantastic. Our enrollment is staying very, very steady. In the context of the Florida college system, which is the 28 great community/state colleges, their enrollments have been going back. As the economy gets better, you know, the enrollments at the colleges go down because people are working, obviously. And ours has stayed very, very close to kind of where we want to be. So we just these are great new opportunities that our community needs and wants, and they're coming, and they're enjoying them, I think.
I want to come back to the issue of the economy and how some of these programs fit into it, but I know that there were also some other initiatives that when we last talked, you were just kind of putting out in terms of supporting students and that kind of thing. What else could we know from the state of the college?
Well, we kind of go back to our strategic plan, one of which is make people highly competitive when they graduate. And of course, the new programs are part of that. But also in that realm, you know, people need to have an opportunity to do internships, right, and meet with, you know, be part of mentorships with businesses and what. And we've created through our career center lots of opportunities, 165 business partnerships in the last 2 years as well. We have had, Matt, over 30,000 people, 30,000 students in the last 2 years go to the Career Center. And one of the priorities we had when I became the president is I wanted folks early on in their careers to get over to the Career Center to understand, you know, what are the job possibilities? What are the academic requirements to get there? What will those jobs pay? Where are those jobs? How do you write a resume? All the things that you would need to do to get a good job, and including the internship aspect of it as well. So that's been a huge success for us, and what that avoids is folks coming in and getting in class and say, well, I'm working on my 4th degree now, and I'd say, well, why are you working on your 4th degree here? Well, because I got into one, I didn't really understand what it was until I got done, or I got, you know, that type of thing where you're wasting time and money, all of which are valuable, and they just need to be better informed when they start as to where this academic, you know, progression can lead. And so I'm really thrilled that they're better informed folks, and they're going to get to where they want to go in a quicker, more efficient way. So that's something that's huge from our students' perspective.
I think that's really important. You know, anytime the economy goes sour,
right,
and it happens,
right,
you always read the stories, is college worth it?
Right.
Or are some of these majors worth it or not? And, you know, I have my own kids and others going to college, and well, should I major in anthropology? My answer was, yeah, major in what you love, but have a career plan coming out.
Right, right.
Go get some internships. Know what you're going to do. Right. Because if you just go out and think that degree is what's going to sell you or get you a job, it's not. You are the one that's going to do that.
And you know, Matt, prior to becoming the president, of course, I've worked at the college and other roles as well, but I was also in private industry for many years. And I know as an employer, somebody who's going to hire folks coming from college, that if I had an opportunity to work with them and see what they could do and get a good gauge as to what kind of abilities they might have or what their strengths or weaknesses might be, before I hired them at the full rate salary that they would require as a graduate in a certain area, then I'm way up in terms of what I could do with that person. Now, if somebody just comes in, they haven't had any experience whatsoever, it's harder to justify, you know, paying top dollar when you really don't have that experience or know that much about them. So it's great. These internship programs are just critical for networking purposes, for everything else. And again, some of the things that we talked about when I interviewed for the job several years ago, that these are important things. And I'm thrilled that we've executed on a lot of this stuff, and I think it's making a difference.
Big news in the past week has been this the revelation that Project Magellan is a big Northrop Grumman.
Right.
I guess it's an aviation industry, an aviation engineering kind of a plant going on, and there's seems to be, I guess, what they call synergy, right, in the industry happening around Melbourne Airport. At the same time, there's cargo cranes going in up at the port. There are new space capsules and other things being built at Cape Canaveral. How do you see the college fitting into the kind of the constellation of growth and expansion that's going on there? Is it just going to serve them? Are you part of the leadership or what?
Well, we're trying to be part of the leadership. Okay. Where, you know, we don't do anything really quickly sometimes, but sometimes it takes time to develop those relationships. But I can tell you, one of the priorities I've had personally is to get a chance to get out and meet some of the leaders. I've met with the Harris CEO, and we've talked about opportunities. We've had them in our offices and talked about better ways that we can work together to help their needs and whatnot. And in terms of the airport, about a year ago, we announced that we're putting together an A&P program, a program that serves the aircraft, the aircraft maintenance, et cetera. We're trying to put that program together right now. So we're working with folks out at the airport and folks that these new businesses are coming in there. They certainly know who we are, and we're working closely with them. So we're trying to be part of all that. In addition, and I think we will be part of all that, to be honest with you, but also the port, as you know, as you just mentioned, is a very, very vibrant and exciting opportunities that they're pursuing. I'm meeting with those folks next week on some issues and things that we can work together on. So we want to be part of the growth of this area and be highly relevant in meeting the educational needs of all these different industries and sectors. That's consistent with what we've done in the last 2 years, and clearly is where we're going to go in the future.
The legislature also just wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the bills have not been signed,
Right.
but the college always has a few things in the budget that it hopes to achieve or get or do.
Right.
What's in potentially coming down from Tallahassee this year?
Well, you know, first of all, the legislature and the governor's office has been very good to this college over the last few years, since I've been here and in this role. And as you know, we're building a public safety institute right now through efforts of our local contingents, delegates, and through the governor approving it. And so those folks have seen the value in what we're doing here. And as we continue to expand into other areas, and one area in particular at this point, as you just mentioned earlier, was our health sciences area. That's been our #1 legislative priority, is to try and find funding for the establishment of really a health sciences building that can really meet all the needs that we have going forward. And so in the legislation right now, there is planning money allocated in there for us, and we're hoping that everyone continues to see the merit of that. And if we can get the planning money going, then you know, we're going to work real hard to get the construction money in the following year or years, and hopefully continue to add to some of the things we're doing with the Public Safety Institute.
What's planning money? Like coming up with the blueprints and
yes.
getting some of the pre-development kinds of things going with whoever the proper authorities are?
Great question. Planning money, and I guess these are the terms we use all the time, so that's a great question. Yeah, planning money is the architectural planning money, that engineering that goes into what your facility will look like, how to be structured, what's the most efficient way of doing it, and you spend quite a bit of time in dollars to really make sure it's exactly what it needs to be for your purposes going forward for, you know, buildings last 30, 40 years. So yeah, that's what that is essentially.
So it sounds like there's a bit of growth coming at the Melbourne campus. Mm-hmm. I assume that's where that's going in.
That's correct.
You mentioned also the public safety building that's under construction out there right now, which has some far out features to it.
Right.
Actually, they're not far out. They're lifelike and simulated for people to actually learn how to transport prisoners and that kind of thing. Help me picture where the Melbourne campus is going and what it might look like in a few years.
Well, you know, everything takes time, and so we're putting together right now a master plan that we will roll out probably later this summer, probably in August, on the Melbourne campus. And all our campuses have master plans, so it's not just Melbourne has a master plan, but we're working on the Melbourne campus. That's going to be more or less our main campus, essentially, for lots of reasons we could talk about if you like. But Melbourne is going to be, like you said, where the public safety is. The health sciences would be there as well. And other areas that we talked about in terms of academics were our business component and our technology component as well. So we need those state-of-the-art facilities down the road as well. That would be something that would be in that master plan, some sort of technology building, business building. And
what about dormitories or a student union?
Well, we're not at the point where we're doing that yet, but that's something that I do hear. I will tell you, I do hear. And to that extent, I met with our student government leaders, duly elected student government leaders, and they're so insightful. I mean, they're so great to be with, because, you know, they're the leaders of the students, and they're really involved with all the organizations and clubs, and they're when you get a chance to talk to them, you really realize how busy they are. They're very, very busy people, and they're just people that want the best for the students and for the college. So, but they mentioned to me without any holding back that they would really like to see it. The students would like to see something along those lines. So, as we continue to plan, we'll think about those types of issues and others as well. But those are the kinds of things that we're putting together in a master plan, and something that we'll have to consider down the road.
For a while there, you were looking at potentially working a deal with Brevard County for an expansion into, I guess, the northern part of Wickham Park,
right.
And then some concerns came up. You pulled that off the table. What happened?
Well, we're trying to vision. We're trying to vision not 5 years, not 10, but maybe 15 or 20 years. I mean, really, the college is in such a transformative way at this point, but we really need to think, decades out. So that was the impetus behind, hey, there's a property that abuts our property. We can see growth, or at least a potential for growth for many, many years. So we thought we would pursue it to that extent. We thought it made a lot of sense. At the same time, as you know, we are a public college. We are good neighbors. We want to be, our community, Matt, is the absolute best as far as I'm concerned. We want to be as good as our community. And so we have to listen to our community in terms of what they have to say. And folks had some legitimate concerns that we then thought, hey, listen, if that's the case, then is there another way that maybe we can still move forward and do some of the things we want to do? So, so that's why we decided not to continue to pursue that at this point. But those are the types of issues and types of reactions that we would have to folks in our community.
You mentioned a moment ago that you're looking at Melbourne as being kind of the flagship or the hub campus. Why? Why there, and why not expand equally in Palm Bay and Titusville and Cocoa? Okay.
Well, first of all, as you know, economically, a lot of things are going on at the airport, and
sure.
So we're going to be part of that. But frankly, Matt, and some folks don't know this, but when you add together our students that go to Melbourne and the distance learning that comes out of Melbourne, is housed in Melbourne, and faculty there and whatnot, that's the majority of our credits come from Melbourne. So that's the leader in the college, and it actually has the ability to still grow in terms of land and whatnot. So Melbourne's kind of where we decided. If you look at the other campuses we have, we love them all, obviously, and we're highly committed to every one of them. And you see, if you've been on all of our campuses recently, you'll see that we've had flags and different things that talk about Eastern Florida State College, and they all have these things. We treat all our campuses with the care that they deserve and the respect that they deserve. So we like them all, but at some point when you're going to grow, we have to decide where we're going to do it. And Melbourne seemed to be the choice that seemed to work.
I love the ad. Look to the east.
Right.
I've seen them so often that I just refer to the school as the East now.
Is that right?
And when I have my paper on my table and I see the girls' eyes doing this, I want to make sure that I turn my paper so that they're looking in the
That's great.
in the right way. One of the things that happened at the Palm Bay campus that came up in the news was an issue involving guns. It wasn't anything that the college did, but it was a fight and a shooting, and eventually the state attorney's office looked into the matter and decided not to file charges against the person who had brought a gun.
Right.
But it happened right in the middle of a big question and court case involving whether or not students could have them on campus or not.
Right.
Where did that leave off? What is the policy and what is the position of the college now?
Our position is we need to do what the law requires.
Okay.
And as that went down, the law had literally changed within weeks of when that event occurred, putting us in kind of a bad situation. And when the law changes, you say, well, how did the law change? Law can change by a legislative act, but it also can change with precedent being set in appellate courts. And in this case, it was an appellate court situation that precipitated that move. So the question then became is when an appellate court does something, when does final really become final? And so we had some questions we just didn't know because it happened so recently as to whether it was a final judgment or not, and whether that was something that we needed to adhere to. And it turns out that was a final judgment. That was the end of the road, and there was no appeals going to take place after that to the Supreme Court of Florida. So that's why there was a little confusion in there. That's why there was a few discussions about that. But we resolved that. There is no pending cases at this point. Our position is what the law is.
What is the law?
Law essentially says that you can have an encased handgun or gun, and I don't have it exactly in front of me, so don't quote the exact
Okay.
law to me, but in your locked vehicle on campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the same as if you work at Publix or work someplace else, you can bring your firearm to work.
Well, and
In this case, you can bring it to campus, but it has to stay in your car.
That's right. That's my understanding, and so again, we recite what the law is in that regard.
Sports. You've got a couple of great soccer teams.
Mm-hmm.
How'd they do?
Well, let me give you a little context on our sports. I'm glad you mentioned that. We now have 9 varsity sports at the college. We had 7 a couple years ago, but we've added women's tennis and men's soccer. Actually, prior to that, a few years before that, it was the women's program. I think the program's been with us maybe 4 years at this point. And it was one of those situations that the college and the community and our students. Part of the student experience was our athletic teams and what we could do with them. So we hired a great athletic director, Jeff Carr, and a number of other folks, great coaches, a great staff over there, and we're recruiting really good student athletes. It's very important that they're student athletes
right.
in that way. And our teams have done really well. I think I mentioned in the State of the College that 6 out of our 9 varsity programs were nationally ranked last year.
I said soccer just because they've made news recently, but baseball has always been great there.
Right.
Golf is...
They've been in the national championships many years.
And the men's basketball is pretty well known. And
men's basketball has been in the state tournament now for the last couple of years, and prior to that, they hadn't been for a long time. Our men's baseball team right now is in the state tournament for the first time in I forget how long, but probably a decade or more. Our men's and women's soccer teams, starting with the women's soccer team, have been to the national championships 2 years in a row, and 2 years ago they were in the final game. Our men's team, a first-year men's team, made it to the national championships this year, a first-year team. Just amazing. And I have to tell you that one thing I'm particularly proud of, in addition to our student athletes and our programs, is the connection that we have as a college to our community from an athletic perspective. Meaning, we've built new facilities, we've built some beautiful soccer facilities, but we're taking that and having a great economic impact in Brevard. Meaning, we host the national championships for women's soccer. We have a 3 or 4 or 5 year commitment. I don't recall exactly off the top of my head, but we have a multi-year contract with them. Brings lots of folks in here. They all come and they stay in the hotels. They go to the restaurants. They spend money in our area. And then we host the boys and girls high school state championships this last year. We're vying for it again next year. I have high probability, or in my mind anyway, that we'll get it again, and hopefully we'll make an announcement to that effect. And if you've been to some of these, there are thousands of people. I think we sold, off the top of my head, we sold over 10,000 hot dogs at the event. But we're providing the whole experience for them. It's a first class. You get comments from all over about the facilities. You now have a good concession area. You've got locker rooms, rest areas. It's set up in a way that's got good lighting, good scoreboards, and it's generating a lot of enthusiasm. And so it makes sense from the college's perspective that we could get that connected with our community. And we're going to continue to do it and do it in other sports and have a bigger economic impact to our community through it.
Every time a student athlete at some big college gets into trouble,
Mm-hmm.
it raises all kinds of questions about how much are these really students, Mm-hmm. Talk about that a little bit. How do you make sure that those kids who are there and playing sports really are, performing and doing what they need to do in the classroom? I
got to tell you, Matt, it starts at the top. It starts with me, and it works down from me. We have in our mind from day one that you're here to get education. And education is the path to success for virtually everybody. Okay, so it's that important. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And then you make sure folks in the athletic area understand it. You make sure the coaches understand it. When you hire them, you make sure that the staff understands that. And ultimately, if everybody in that chain understands what the goal is, and the goal is for you to succeed academically, students will understand that. So to me, it's a culture that you have to create. Of course, you're going to have outliers. You're going to have some people there for other reasons. They want to be a professional, whatever it is, and that's great. But it's a cultural thing in my mind to a great extent.
That's terrific. Yeah, I have taught student athletes at the college level before, and my overwhelming impression of them is not that they are pampered elite students, my overwhelming impression of them is that they are crazy busy with really, really detailed planners and calendars in their phone. They don't know the meaning of the word procrastination because there's no time to procrastinate. They are squeezing in work and studies in between practices and games, and they just work so hard. And
that's why a lot of them go on to be highly successful at whatever they do, man. That exact thing that you just said is very accurate from my perspective. And that's why those folks, and in addition to other folks that have the same kind of mindset, go on to be leaders, go on to be highly successful in their endeavors, go on to become a brain surgeon or whatever, because they have that sort of time management, which I think is critical for a lot of folks to be a successful student.
What's the best part of your job, and what's the toughest or worst part?
I tell you, there aren't many bad parts of this job. I'm so invigorated with what we're doing, the culture that the college has created internally with our students, with our staff and our faculty, the passion that people have that I share with them. I don't think there's a better job in the whole country, to be honest with you. I'm so happy to be here, to be able to lead this college at this time in this community, a wonderful community. I guess the only downside is it's really a 24/7 job. A lot of people use those terms, but I stepped off an airplane the other day and my phone was ringing, and there's things you got to deal with, and it's a Saturday, it's a Sunday, it doesn't matter in that regard. But I certainly wouldn't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I can tell you that it's just a great opportunity to lead just a super organization, and I'm thrilled to do it.
Well, if it makes you feel better, you're not aging at nearly the rate that you see the President of the United States.
Well, thank you.
Every time they show up for the State of the Union speech, it seems like they're a little more grayer and a little bit more fallow. I mean, it seems like a place that's growing and doing some interesting things.
It's been a great fit for me. I'm really thrilled that I've been able to do it. I want to thank my Board of Trustees who work diligently to make sure we're doing all the right things, putting the right policies in place, and making hard decisions on behalf of the college and our community. They've done a fantastic job, but for that sort of leadership, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing.
President Richey, thank you so much for joining us here today, and
good
luck with the plans.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, that's our program. My thanks to Eastern Florida State College President Jim Richey for making time for us, and to Florida Today's Mackenzie Ryan for the news report. Remember, you can publish your comments on today's program or anything you read in Florida Today just by sending an email to letters@floridatoday.com. I'm Matt Reed. I'll see you right here next week on WEFS and FloridaToday.com.